All right, well, welcome to the Ohio Association for College Admission Counseling Virtual College Fair. Thank you for joining us. Just a few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions that are happening, so make sure that you sign up for additional sessions too, if you're interested. And lastly, this presentation is being recorded, and that recording will be available within about a week at strivescan.com/Ohio. And now I'd like to turn it over to our presenters, starting with Tyler Bradshaw with Miami University.
Well, good evening, everybody. We're so glad to have you here with us. And thanks again for joining us for the OACAC panel on the college search process during a pandemic. I'm Tyler Bradshaw, and I'm an Associate Director of Admission at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. And I'm going to allow my colleagues to introduce themselves. Rayanne, I think you're up next.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rayanne DiBaggio. I'm the Senior Associate Director of Undergraduate Admission at Case Western Reserve University. And Ellen?
Hi, folks. Welcome. I'm Ellen Turner, and I'm Senior Associate Director of Admissions at Kenyon College, Gambier, Ohio. We're delighted you're here.
And I'm excited to be here with both Rayanne and Ellen, who are colleagues, but also good friends. And although we can't be together in person, glad that we can at least connect virtually. And we're going to be using, as Andy mentioned, the question and answer function tonight in order to answer any questions that you might bring up to us. You can ask a question at any time. We'll monitor the Q&A and we'll make sure that we get to your questions by the end of tonight's presentation. And Ellen, you are muted, so you'll just need to unmute.
I'm sorry. Thanks so much. Thanks so much again for joining us tonight. My colleagues and I represent close to 80 years of experience in both college admissions and college counseling. So we're eager to share our perspective with you. The college search process can really be defined as an odyssey. If done well, it can transform a person's life. Students progress through this journey at different speeds. And tonight, our hope is to shed some light on the college search process and help you understand how to navigate it, how to begin it if you've not already done so. It is also our hope to illuminate the journey regardless of where you are at the moment. Some individuals will find that this journey is complex and sometimes stressful, and that's under normal circumstances. Given the pandemic, we all find ourselves in a world that is very different from what we would describe as normal. This means that you need to be more creative as you move through this particular process, the college search process, to ascertain what you want from your collegiate years and to learn as much as you can about what colleges and universities have to offer. Although many of us have faced significant challenges or changes due to the pandemic, the college search process allows you to focus on yourself and not the outside world. It is ultimately a time of growth and discovery, and it's our hope to provide you with information that will serve as guideposts for this journey. My colleague Rayanne is going to start us off with some pointers and steps on conducting a thorough college search process, beginning with a good self-evaluation.
Okay. So one of the most important things about this is that to remember that this college search experience is a journey, and this journey is a journey of self-discovery. So it's important to understand that it is a process. It's not something that we start on a Monday and we finish on a Friday, but it's a journey of self-evaluation and self-discovery. So there are many tools that are available to help you make this process an easier one. There are 4 primary goals that we have to share with you about this journey. And there are a lot of resources to help you reach these goals. So our goals in tonight's presentation are to help you understand why you want to go to college, as well as what your expectations are for your college experience. We want to talk a little bit about helping you determine your own values and strengths and challenges. We want you to become an educated and informed person about the college and university options that are available to you. And we want you to understand what colleges are looking for so that you can formulate a list of schools that are based on reasonable expectations. So there are some tools and resources that are available for you to help you with this journey. So there are self-evaluation forms and questionnaires. You can find those at your school, depending on the type of program that you might use, maybe Naviance or SCORE. You may have additional resources available through your college counselor. You'll be taking advantage of on-campus visits, high school visits, when college representatives are available to meet with you at your high schools. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means in a pandemic in terms of virtual exploration opportunities. There might be college fairs, again, virtual, and hopefully we will be able to return to in-person visits here soon. Please make sure that you are checking out college and university websites. You may also have friends or classmates who are currently attending a school that you might be interested in or have recently attended one of those schools. So getting that firsthand experience and having a conversation to really learn firsthand about experiences and to ask questions of your friends and classmates is another great way to do that exploration. And then there are other resources. There are things like My Big Future through the College Board and other tools that are out there, guidebooks, web resources. So, really trying to take advantage of all of those to help you through this process. So Tyler, I think we go on to the next slide here. And really then, as we talk about finding and moving through this journey, it is a journey of self-discovery for you. So one of the most important things that you can do is to take time to do that self-inventory. So you want to challenge yourself to come up with a list of characteristics that really define you. And these characteristics are going to be the things that are driving you and helping you find the schools that are going to be a good fit for you. So specifically, you should think about your strengths and challenges. What are your values, your aspirations? Also be thinking about those needs and the desires that you are interested in accomplishing and identifying over the next 4 years as well. The second thing that you should do is to start thinking about developing a list of the characteristics of a college or university that appeal to you. So they should be general things that include, the size, the location. If you have an area that you're interested in possibly studying, what are you thinking about studying? What type of residential life experience would you like to have during your college years? Are athletics something that are important to you, whether it's at a collegiate level or at a club or an intramural level? What are the availability of extracurriculars and clubs? If you're someone who's been very involved in these types of activities as a high school student, the importance of being able to either continue the things that you've done that you're currently doing, or finding new and different things as you embark on this journey and this experience of your undergraduate learning. What kinds of experiences and opportunities are available? And if you've involved in something and it's not currently available at the schools, what is the flexibility to create your own or start your own club or organization as well? Be sure to consider the things that are important to you. So what are you hoping to accomplish at the end of your undergraduate experience? What kinds of things are important to you? What do you need to be in a good living and learning environment? The other thing that's important as you start on this journey is to have conversations. And this should be an opportunity to really have dialogue amongst your family, having conversations with your parents about finances and the expectations there. What are reasonable expectations within your family? Don't assume at the very beginning of this that the cost of an institution should be prohibitive in your search. Don't rule anything out at the very beginning, but have an understanding of what is a doable number for your family. And you'll find that as you go through the process, there will be scholarships, there will be need-based financial aid, there will be opportunities to help explore and defraying the cost, but having a realistic conversation. Do your parents also have ideas about things that are important to them in this process? How close to home, how far away from home, what does that look like as well? So sort of having a great conversation at the beginning that sets those expectations then will be a good driving force in your self-discovery and creating that list of schools. So The next thing is actually getting started in this process. So once you've kind of completed this self-inventory and you've identified those things that are really important to you, you're coming up with that list of characteristics. Now it's time to start exploring. So we want to provide you with some general helpful hints about the college search process. And Tyler's going to talk a little bit more about those with you next.
Perfect. Thank you, Rayanne. So initially, we want to provide you with some useful information that we relay year after year to students who are in the thick of searching for colleges. And given the extra challenge of a worldwide pandemic, we think these hints are probably more important now than they've ever been. First and foremost, if you've not already done so, be sure that you have created a unique email address to be used just for your college mail and your email. You are going to be inundated with emails, definitely from our 3 institutions, but from lots of institutions all across the country. Make sure that you're checking this email regularly so you don't miss important information from the colleges and universities that interest you. And especially in a year where deadlines and test optional policies are likely changing, those things will often be communicated via email. Requests for information forms are also a really vital component of indicating your interest in a college or university. Most colleges have this available on their website. Use this form or send an email informing the college of your interest and requesting more information. Be sure that you're letting the college know about your academic and extracurricular interests. That will also get you on any mailing list to get regular updates from the institution. One of the best tips I can give you is to create a spreadsheet so you can keep important information about colleges in one place, whether that's requirements, contact information, deadlines, financial aid information. You can keep it all there. Just list all the schools you're interested in down the left-hand side and all the things across the top that you need to know about that school. The contact information, maybe their admission deadline, their priority deadline for financial aid. As you move from the search process to the application process, it is going to be your responsibility to know and meet the deadlines provided by the colleges, and that spreadsheet will help you keep track of all of those things. Make sure that your college list is reasonable, and if you're uncertain, ask your guidance counselor what a reasonable list should look like. Colleges and universities all post information about their incoming class, so you can get an idea if you fit within the parameters that a college or university indicates on their admitted student profile. Most, if not all, institutions of higher learning have these profiles available on their website that will give you common information about GPA averages, test score averages if they're required, and other helpful information. Read your email, and you're going to have a lot of it to read, but make sure that you set aside some time each week to review email from the colleges, especially those colleges that interest you the most. You're going to learn about special opportunities to engage with the college or university and learn more about them, and you don't want to miss out on those opportunities, especially if you can't go to campus for an in-person experience. Remember that your spreadsheet that you're developing could change or evolve as you learn more about the colleges. This is an evolving process and definitely not a static event. This advice is good, basic information that all students should practice, but Ellen and Rayanne are going to provide an overview of visiting colleges during a pandemic.
Thanks, Tyler. So, it's really nice to know that the majority of students who conduct successful college searches are admitted to more than one college or university. And in fact, that's what we're talking about today, is how you conduct a successful search so that you have some options, many options, hopefully, at the end of this process. We're lucky that in the United States of America, there are over 2,000 institutions of higher education. And right here in Ohio, we are incredibly fortunate that there are over 130 colleges of four-year colleges and universities right here in the state. And it's actually, I think, one of the highest per capita of any state in the country outside of California and I believe New York. So the wonderful thing is that while you're developing this sort of sense of what you want in a college, you can actually go and visit different types of institutions. You can visit a major research institution, such as Case Western Reserve. You can research and go to see a campus like Miami, which is a medium-sized but wonderful university with lots of different options, from research to liberal arts and sciences and how that works out. Or you can go see a small liberal arts and sciences college and determine if that kind of environment feels best to you. By just going out and checking out a few of the colleges that are available and universities that are available to you here in Ohio, you can get a better sense of what feels right for you. Once you have that sense, then it's easier to extrapolate your search outside of Ohio. And then write to colleges and universities that are similar to the schools that you enjoyed the most when you were visiting. Once you write to them, that means you're going to get on their list and they will start sending you, as Tyler said, plenty of email. But start your search here. It's a great place to start, right here in Ohio. And Ray Ann's going to talk about how to make the most of those campus visits, whether they're here in Ohio or outside of the state.
Sure. Thank you, Ellen. You're going to find that there are visit options in a non-pandemic, and then there are visit options in a pandemic. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those, because hopefully, as we continue to move through this process for you, more and more colleges and universities will begin to open back up again, and you'll be able to do some of these visits in person. So if it's possible for you to do a visit in person, that is really the best way for you to get a sense, and you'll hear us talk about that fit and feel of that. But some colleges and universities are open right now. It really is depending on the state and local regulations. So if possible, try to schedule those in-person visits. You can find out information about that by visiting each of the college and universities' websites, where it will be clearly outlined for you what those options are, when they're happening, what kinds of rules or restrictions might be in place. And that will be very helpful as you're planning those visits. You want to make sure that you are registering for a visit if you are able to do that. So many colleges and universities are restricting the number of visitors if they are open to the public. So we want to make sure that, colleges and universities want to make sure that they know who's on their campuses and they can communicate any of those instructions prior to your visit. You want to make sure that you are following all of the protocols that are outlined by that institution. It is designed, those are designed to keep not only visitors, but staff, faculty, and students on campus in a safe environment right now. Depending on the college or university, an in-person visit may consist of a general tour, an information session, perhaps specialized tours. And as you get a little bit farther into this process, you may find that some schools will offer you the opportunity to do an individual interview. And those are typically a great way to sit down with a representative from the admission office and to be able to share information about your story and to answer any questions that the admission person might have. If no in-person visits are available right now, all schools are offering virtual visits. And so my best advice would be to visit the websites to see what kinds of opportunities are available. Again, it'll be the same types of things: information sessions, virtual campus tours. There may be some links where you can set up an appointment to speak with an admission counselor or to chat with an admission counselor. But virtual visits, like in-person visits, are going to require you to register in person, again, because schools want to know who's interested and get your information so that we can continue to communicate with you with that. The other thing is that you're going to start seeing more and more opportunities for underclassmen to start visiting this spring. So schools are going to be offering more opportunities for you to get to know them either in person or virtually. So the most important thing, as you've heard us say, is to get on the mailing lists so that we can communicate, make sure you're checking your email, and then you're paying close attention to those offerings and what might appeal to you, and you want to do a little bit more exploration. So Tyler's going to now talk a little bit about the methods that you can use to research colleges and universities, and how you can find out more information beyond those campus visits.
Perfect. Thanks, Rayanne. So in addition to visiting a college, either in person or virtually, there are some other options to help you learn more about collegiate institutions. Most colleges and universities will be making either in-person or virtual visits to your high school this upcoming fall. This spring, all programs are likely virtual. We're not sure what the fall will bring, but we guess there will be a mixture of in-person and virtual visits. Register for those events and those institutions that interest you most. If a college presentation conflicts with a class, go to class and send a note to the admission officer who is making the virtual visit. He or she might be willing to meet with you at another time, and this really depends on the availability of their schedule and also the volume of students that they might be working with. In addition to visiting a college or university, again, either virtually or in person, there are some other excellent sources of information that you can explore. College fairs are a great way to do that. These opportunities are either virtual or in-person events where numerous colleges come together to provide you with information and to answer your questions about their school. And if we're back in person, you'll see folks like me and Rayanne and Ellen all standing behind our tables ready to answer your question. But the important thing to remember, use that profile you developed earlier to ask smart questions and make the most of your time during those college fairs. Talk with current students at the college or university who are friends or former students from your high school. And this is a great way, especially during a pandemic, to understand how students that are currently on campus might have dealt with the changes that happened on their particular campuses. Utilize those interviews if they're available, whether this is a virtual interview with someone in admission or an alumni interview where you talk with someone who has graduated from that institution. If the school offers those interview opportunities, definitely take advantage of them. If you're an athlete, coaches can also be a great source of information. If you're a recruited athlete or you hope to be a recruited athlete, you should be in touch with the coach or with the coaching staff. And especially for all of our juniors sitting out there on the other side of this webinar, you should be in contact with those coaches now in order to make that a likelihood. Colleges can also be a useful resource, or I'm sorry, college guides can also be a useful resource. But remember, the best source of information is the institution's website or someone who is affiliated directly with the college or university. Every guide and every ranking system will have its own biases, its own benefits and drawbacks. So use those as a good introduction, but definitely go straight to the source at any chance that you can. Now, also in the age of COVID, communication with admission offices takes on a new level of importance. And I'm going to review a few ways in which the communication can be most useful and beneficial. First, let's talk about websites. Colleges and university websites are full of excellent information. You just have to be able to navigate it and read it. Be sure to explore those websites to find answers to your general questions about any college or university, especially related to academic programs. Folks like Rayanne and Ellen and I, we know a little bit about a lot, but there's tons of information on the website about specific academic programs especially. Stay current with electronic information. So once you've decided where you're going to apply, keep current with the website of those institutions. Don't just rely on what you've put in that checklist or in that spreadsheet back in the fall. Make sure that you go back and update it in the event that anything has changed. Given the pandemic, some colleges and universities will be updating procedures for the application process and sometimes even in the middle of the year. This means that you have to stay up to date. It's a great reason to keep checking those websites and again, your email that you set up for the colleges and universities. Maintain a presence by connecting with admission officers to ask meaningful questions when you can't find the information on the website. Ellen and Rayanne and I want you to be resilient. We want you to go out and do some of this exploration on your own, but if you can't find information and need a little help, we can often point you in the right direction. So be sure that you check the website, but then reach out to us if you have questions. And finally, a bit about demonstrated interest. Colleges will use this to varying degrees, and demonstrated interest means in some way you as a student are indicating that you are interested in that institution, whether it is requesting information, visiting campus, attending a virtual visit program, sending an email, or calling the institutions. Again, some schools will actually use demonstrated interest to influence your admission decision. So make sure that you're indicating interest, especially in those schools that are at the top of your list. Now that you're fully involved in your search, what can you do to get ready to complete your applications? Ellen's going to talk to us about some general tips to remember when completing your college applications.
Great, thanks, Tyler, so much. First of all, there are three types of applications that are used in the United States today. The first is the common application, and about 800 colleges and universities use the common application. There's also the coalition application, which is used probably by another 150 colleges, and some colleges and universities use both of those. Then there are still schools and colleges in this country that have their own, or what we call a proprietary application. Those are ones where you're going to have to answer their specific questions that they will set up for you. And that means if you have many colleges that have just their own application, you're writing lots of applications. The advantage of both the Common App and the Coalition is that you can prepare one application and send it to multiple schools, to multiple colleges and universities. And so to think about how you get started with that, the Common App and the Coalition are available always about August 1st. In fact, that's their release date, August 1st. But the prompts for the Common Application essay have already been shared. You can get that on the Common Application website, and there are, I believe, 8 or 9 different choices that you get to select from in order to decide where you want to go with that essay. We urge you to get started on that now. Some guidance counselors will say, "Well, do it in the summer." Yeah, you could wait till the summer, but if you have time now, time on your hands, and some of you do because of the pandemic, you might get started doing some of your writing now, because the more you write, the more you know, the more you have time to edit, and the more you have time to sort of think about the story that you're going to tell us. That story, which hopefully helps us understand more about you. I like to think of an application as a tapestry or a mosaic. The essay is one piece of that larger application because you're going to be providing us lots of different information when you apply to us. But the essay is one that you have total control over. To some extent, you have a lot of control over your grades too, but some of that has already passed. You know, it's already been done. 9th and 10th grade, they're done. 11th grade, you're trying to finish up. And then you have senior year. And so you have some choices that you can certainly make about the kinds of courses and that kind of thing that you're taking. And there are ways in which you can control that. But your essay is something that you can completely control. And so we urge you to get started on it early and to think about what kind of story you want to share with us. And that's really important because it's a way that we can get to know you, especially if you've not interviewed at the college, especially if the only other way we're getting to know you is through your transcript and through the recommendations that have been submitted by your guidance counselor and by your teachers. And also the other information that you provide us in the essay, which includes your list of activities. Now, this could change a lot depending upon your particular situation with the pandemic, but keeping a list of activities, past activities, things that you've done in the summer or school year employment, religious activities, community service, etc. That kind of thing is great for you to build right now, so you can just put it on the Common Application or the Coalition when you're ready to get started. It's also helpful if you think about the amount of time you've devoted to all those activities, because they do ask for you to list that when you go to put your information in on the application itself. Another thing that you might want to think about is recommendations. And the reason I bring that up now is because you may have had an experience this year with a junior teacher who where it's been a particularly good one. And we recommend that your teacher recommendations come from a core teacher, which means core academics, and either the junior or the senior year. That's the most helpful to us. Keep in mind also that the guidance counselors provide a general overview and recommendation, and you should check with your individual counselor about their particular procedure. Some high schools don't do a school recommendation. In those situations, it's fine to ask for additional teacher recommendations. But you want to check, and as Rayanne said, and Tyler have talked about, in keeping this spreadsheet, you can list what kind of recommendations are required at each school. And given the importance of the essay, Rayanne is going to give you a little bit more information about and some pointers about its content.
Okay, thanks, Ellen. So Ellen just talked about the opportunity to get started on those essays sooner rather than later. And so I thought it might be a good idea to share some additional insight as to how that essay plays an important role in the application process. So remember that we as colleges and universities want to evaluate how you write. So are you producing clear, succinct writing? You know, are you being descriptive in that writing? Are you ready to, deal with the demands of writing at a college or a university? So we're trying to get at that. Are you prepared to come in and be successful in the academic environment that you'll find on our campuses? When you think about choosing the topic that you want to write about, select a topic that's going to differentiate you or about something which you are passionate. So that will make it easier for you to write about that topic and to share your experiences, to share your passion. That will come through in your writing. In the general essay for the application, it is best if you avoid your experience with COVID, as everybody right now is dealing with the pandemic. So you want to write about something that has changed your way of thinking, or maybe the way that you look at the world, or maybe write about an experience that provided you with a growth moment. Has that experience changed you? Has it changed you positively? Has it changed you negatively? And how has that affected you moving forward? The Common Application is going to give you a variety of topics that you can choose from, and then they always have that fallback, a topic of your choice. So there really is no excuse for you to not be able to find a topic that you're passionate about, and that passion will come through in your writing. The goal with your essay is to really differentiate yourself from others who will be in the applicant pool. The Common Application and the Coalition application both have separate COVID-19 question areas. So if there is something that has significantly impacted you and your family, and you wish to share it with the college or university, that would be the place for you to do that. So taking classes online might feel significant to you, but it may not be as significant as you think, because if you think about it, everybody is in the same type of situation right now. Everybody had activities that were canceled or things that they weren't able to take advantage of. So using that portion of the application to share any significant information is a great place to do that. So some students may choose to highlight one activity and its impact on them in that primary essay. Others might follow a path that's a totally different topic. So regardless of the path that you choose, the essay's impact is going to be significant this year, especially because additionally, how you're spending your time outside of the class and how you communicate that to admission offices is going to be very important. Tyler's going to share some tips with you about using your time wisely.
And I'm going to use my time wisely to keep us on time. The thing I want to mention right out of the gate is that we understand the pandemic has likely impacted your activities and what you've been able to be involved in. And as college admission professionals, we are not going to hold that against you. So make sure that you approach that list with that in mind. Activities have been canceled. Let us know about it. Let us know either in that COVID section of the application or in the activities list that things were canceled or impacted because of the global pandemic. If you were introduced into a new activity due to the pandemic, let us know how you changed during this process, or if activities have changed, let us know about that as well. The important thing to remember is that the activities list is going to look different for students during a pandemic, and we will remember that and keep that in mind when we review your application. Just keep us up to date on what those changes have been. Now, earlier in the presentation, we mentioned that many colleges and universities were test optional for this current application season. Many are likely going to continue that practice moving forward, but some will not. And Ellen's going to discuss the changes in standardized test requirements that are going on as a result of the pandemic.
Thanks, Tyler, so much. I appreciate it. So the most important thing, and as we have it right up there in front, is that all test policies are not created equal. It's really important as you're doing your investigation of your colleges to keep this information on your spreadsheet, to find out exactly what the college is requiring in terms of standardized testing. Some schools will be test optional. Some will not be test optional, and some will be test optional for admission overall to the school. But if you're applying for special scholarships or maybe a specialized program within the school, they will require those tests. So it's a really good idea to just understand that differences exist and that different schools will have different testing requirements. This particular year, we did have about 1,400 colleges that were test optional, but those policies are subject to change. And some of our institutions, Rayanne says they have made up their mind, but some of my institution will be announcing theirs in April for going forward. And part of that is we're waiting to see what is happening with the pandemic and whether or not students have accessibility to tests. So the most important thing is to just be aware of the test policies as they exist in each school. The last point I want to make that I think is important is to play it smart when you're going, if a school is test optional. And this is where you want to use your guidance counselor. If in fact your test scores fall at the bottom of their middle 50%, is it a real good idea to submit your scores? Probably not. I would suggest not to. But if you're at the top of their middle 50% or higher than that, do you want to submit your test scores? Yes, absolutely, because that could be something that could help you. Schools will not penalize you if you do not submit your test scores. We don't know whether it is because you didn't want to take the test, you could take the test, or you just chose to not give us your scores. All those three scenarios are possible, and we're not going to hold it against you. But if you can submit them and they are good, there's no reason not to. Again, consult with your guidance counselor about that. And finally, what we would like to do is talk a little bit about financial aid before we finish up. And Rayanne is going to do that for you.
Thanks, Ellen. So, we talked at the beginning about having conversations as you start on this journey of self-discovery. And one of those conversations is about the affordability of a college and what feels comfortable for you as a family. So the college application process can be daunting for many reasons. And one of the biggest is that cost. So while a college education can be an expensive investment, research shows that college graduates make significantly more money over their lifetimes than those who do not have a degree. So although not much has changed about the financial aid process due to COVID, there are some issues that we want to just make sure that you and your family are aware of as you journey through this process. There are two types of financial aid that are available to students: need-based and merit-based aid. Need-based financial aid is determined through a federal formula and is usually met with a combination of scholarships, grants, loans, and work study. Merit-based aid is institutionally driven, and it's given out to students who have completed academics, who have met academic thresholds, who their academic scholarship is excellent, and who have particular talents, and who will add to the communities of the college or university's campuses. There's also a tool called the Net Price Calculator, and this is a tool that you will find on colleges and universities' websites. We are required by law to post these and to have them easily accessible. These calculators are designed to help you estimate the eligibility for any need-based financial aid. So some colleges will have additional calculators on their websites available too. They may ask for a little bit more in-depth information. My intuition determines projected costs for a college once need-based financial aid is met and has been factored into that cost of attendance. Deadlines. You've heard us talk about deadlines. They're important. They are something that you need to keep track of on that spreadsheet. Sometimes financial aid and scholarship deadlines are going to be different from the admission deadlines. So making sure that you're keeping track of them will keep you on time and will help make sure that you don't lose out on any opportunities that might become available to you. Staying organized in this process is extremely important as well. You make sure that you understand the paperwork that's going to be required by each institution for either merit or scholarship, the merit scholarship or the need-based financial aid. For the need-based aid, you may be able to be asked to submit the FAFSA, the CSS profile, a copy of your tax returns, other supporting documents. So keeping an eye on the requirements and then keeping an eye as you go through this process, as things are being evaluated, you may be asked to provide additional information as well. For merit-based scholarships, you may need to submit a portfolio of writing or art or some kind of an audition. If you're applying for performing arts, perhaps you're applying for leadership, you may need to have a resume, or you may be applying for a scholarship that requires you to write an additional essay or to provide additional recommendation letters. So keeping track of all of that so that you can stay on top of those requests and you can stay organized and make sure that things are turned in before the deadline is going to be key. And finally, ask for help if you cannot find an answer on the admission or the financial aid website. Admission offices and financial aid officers are eager to help you and your family through this process. So please make sure that you reach out. That's what we do. We work with students, we work with families, and we want to try to make this process as seamless and as easy as possible for you.
All right, so we have thrown a ton of information at you about conducting your college search. And now here's a little bit more information. If you're looking for some additional resources to help you, we have some books here, especially one that Ellen always promotes and loves, The Truth About College Admission. That is a great resource to kind of help you work through, but there's also a couple websites here as well. We also have just another minute or two to answer any questions that you have. So if you've not submitted your question, send those through the Q&A feature and make sure that you type quickly. That way we can get to those before the webinar stops at 7:45. Lastly, if you're interested in continuing this conversation with one of us specifically, our contact information is available to you here on this slide. Rayanne and Ellen are much wiser, more intelligent than I could ever hope to be, and they are great resources. So feel free to reach out to any of us. We're happy to help. But that concludes our presentation. I don't see any questions in the Q&A at this time.
That's correct, Tyler. There are no questions, but we are very grateful that you all shared some time with us this evening. And thank you so much for being here.
All right. Well, thank you to all of our presenters. And Tyler, if I could just take over the share for a second. I just want to give you all one last little going away gift here. Let's there we go. All right, so again, thank you so much for joining us today. When you close this window, there's going to be a link to a really quick 4-question survey, and we'd really appreciate any feedback that you can provide on today's session. Also, this is just one of many different sessions that are being hosted, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions too that might interest you. And in about a week, you're going to be able to find this session's recording, as well as all of the other session recordings at the website you see there, strivescan.com/Ohio. All right, well, thanks again, everyone.